Welcome students, welcome to the last session of amino acids and proteins. In this session, let us discuss about the remaining part of the amino acids and proteins. Okay students, in the last class I have discussed about carboxyl end degradation method of polypeptide chain. Let us discuss about Edman's method of degradation of a polypeptide chain. Edman's method students. The reagent we use here can be remembered as PTH. You can remember it as PTH, means phenyl isothiocyanate along with some alkaline medium. Phenyl isothiocyanate along with alkaline medium is your Edman's reagent. Okay students, this attacks the N-terminal of the amino acids. Okay students, this attacks the N-terminal of the amino acids. In case of carboxyl end degradation, first we will protect N-terminal and then attack ammonium cyanide to C-terminal there. So first the reaction of carboxyl end degradation also starts with N-terminal only, but we are protecting with benzoyl chloride and again we are attacking ammonium thiocyanate to C-terminal of the amino acid. Okay students, let us do the reaction. C6H5 N double bond C double bond S. Phenyl isothiocyanate is treated with the peptide chain. You will get, let us take the peptide chain generally as R1, R2, R3 students. NH2, CH, R1, CONH, CH, R2, CONH, CH, R3, CONH. Our aim is to know the combinations of what are R1, R2, R3. What are the combination of amino acids are combined to give this polypeptide chain. Okay students, in the first step, what happens? C6H5 NH C double bond S NH CH R1 CONH CH R2 CONH CH R3 etc. Okay students, here what happened here? Hydrogen is added, okay, and the carbon is connected to nitrogen in the first step. Second step, if proton is added, okay, what happens? Let me write like this: C6H5, okay, NH C double bond S NH CH R1 C double bond O NH, and let me, instead of writing everything always, let me write that whole chain as a peptide. Whole chain as a peptide. What happens here? This H plus will get attached to here, NH plus. So in the next step, I will write here so that you can view this reaction. In the next step, what happens? Okay students, the H plus will get attached to NH. So you will get C6H5 NH C, okay students, C single bond S single bond NH and S connected to C double bond O, here N CH R1. Okay students, you will get a heterocyclic ring plus this is removed as NH2 peptide. This can be removed as NH2 peptide. Here H plus is added to NH. Here H plus is added and rearrangement occurs so that NH2 peptide can be removed and this forms a heterocyclic ring. For this, if you add barium hydroxide students, what happens? You will get NH2 CH R1 plus COOH and your reagent back. NH2, H will be added here and OH will be added here. H plus, OH minus here. So NHH, what will be students? NH2, okay, CH, R1 plus COOH, and the remaining this one will be again removed as a reagent which is called PTH students, phenyl isothiocyanate. So what this reagent has done? It has degraded the part of first amino acid from the peptide chain. In the next step, what it will do again? This phenyl thioisocyanate reagent again attacks the N-terminal of the second amino acid. Again attacks the N-terminal of the second amino acid, and the procedure is followed again. Again, the second amino acid will comes like R1. As R1 came out, R2 also comes like this as a separate amino acid. Again, the reagent what it will do? It attacks the third part, N-terminal of the third part. Again, the third terminal also will be removed. Again, the third amino acid also will be removed. We are cutting a polypeptide chain into which it has formed, from which it has been formed, from which type of amino acids it has been formed. From that we can easily say, by doing this reaction we can easily say what is the combination of a peptide chain. If you have given a peptide chain and they asked to write the combinations of amino acids, if you follow this method you can write, yes, it is prepared from glycine, alanine, valine, or it is prepared from phenyl, valine, leucine, like that. Okay students? This is about the Edman's method of degradation of a polypeptide chain. Understood students? Have you make a note of it? Okay. Now, next topic, proteins. Proteins are nothing but polymeric nitrogenous complex substances. These are complex nitrogenous polymeric substances which are all present in all living matter. Okay, these are complex nitrogenous polymeric substances present in all living matter. These are complex nitrogenous polymeric substances present in all living matter. Okay students, this is about proteins. Okay, these are also the products which are obtained by the condensation of alpha amino acids through a peptide bond. Okay, these are the products which are obtained by the condensation of alpha amino acids through a peptide bond. What is a peptide bond students? Do you remember? CONH is our peptide bond. So proteins are very important for our survival, right? Let us see about some of the proteins. Okay, they are egg albumin. Let us know, we know that proteins have high molecular masses. Let us know about some of the proteins and their molecular masses. Here I am writing the list of proteins and here I am giving their molecular mass. Okay students, egg albumin, milk globulin, hemoglobin, serum albumin, casein and insulin. Okay students, we are knowing about the molecular mass of the following proteins: egg albumin, milk globulin, hemoglobin, serum albumin from horse, casein and insulin. Okay students, egg albumin, it is around 34,000 to 44,000. It is around 35,000 to 40,000. Okay students, hemoglobin, it is around 60,000 to 65,000. Serum albumin students, it is about 60,000 to 70,000. Okay students, casein, it is about 70,000 to 1 lakh students. Okay, insulin finally 6,000 students. These are about the proteins, list of the proteins and their molecular masses. Egg albumin contain 34,000 to 44,000 molecular mass. Milk globulin around 35,000 to 40,000. Hemoglobin, which is present as a red pigment in our blood cells, right, 60,000 to 65,000. Serum albumin, horse, okay, 60,000 to 70,000. Casein, 70,000 to 1 lakh, highest molecular mass. Insulin, 6,000. This is the list of the molecular masses for their respective proteins. Molecular masses for their respective proteins. Now, let us move into the next concept. Next concept is classification of proteins. Proteins can be classified in two ways. The first way is based on their structure and properties, and the second classification based on their hydrolysis. That is based on their hydrolysis. After hydrolysis, what products are obtaining? What is their composition? After hydrolysis, what is their composition? In these two ways, we can easily classify proteins. Okay, students, based on their structure. Let us know the classification based on their structure. First classification. Okay, students, based on their structure and properties, proteins are classified into two types. They are fiber protein and globular proteins. Okay, fiber proteins are nothing but they have needle-like structure. I mean, they have thread-like structure. So that needles or thread-like structures are joined together to form a fiber. So that type of proteins come under fiber proteins. Okay, students, they are not soluble in water. Okay, they are not soluble in water. So they are not soluble in water. Important point, insoluble in water. Next point, they have thread or needle-like structures. And the last point, they are attached by intermolecular hydrogen bonding. They are attached by intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Coming to globular examples. Example of fiber proteins, keratin. In nails, our nails grow because of this protein, students. Keratin protein, our nails grow. Okay, fiber proteins are insoluble in water. They have thread or needle-like structure and they contain intermolecular hydrogen bonding. And finally, example of fiber protein is keratin nails, hair or hair growth in nails, etc. Globular proteins. Coming to globular proteins, they are attached by intramolecular hydrogen bonding. They are soluble in water and they are folded in a compact discs. I mean, they have spheroidal shape. They have spheroidal shape. They are folded in a compact units, compact disc units. I mean, they have spheroidal shape and they are soluble in water. Okay, students, they are also connected through the hydrogen bonding. And example is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, which is present in our blood. This is about the classification which is based on their structure and properties. Now, let us move into the next classification. Let us move into the next classification. B, based on hydrolysis. They are classified as, let me write first. Based on hydrolysis, if you do hydrolysis, so what is the combinations of products are obtained? So based on that composition, another classification of proteins has been done. They are classified as simple proteins, conjugated proteins and derived proteins. What are simple proteins? Simple proteins are those proteins which on hydrolysis gives only the proteins as a product, amino acids as a product. Okay, so polar compounds as a product. I finally say simple proteins are those proteins which on hydrolysis gives only amino acids, that is only polar groups as a products. They will not give non-polar group, which is also known as non-polar, means here we call it as prosthetic group. Non-polar means, let us remember it as prosthetic group. In the case of conjugated, when we do hydrolysis, along with polar groups, some prosthetic group is also obtained. So along with amino acids, some other products are also obtained. Derived proteins, these are obtained by the metabolic degradation of higher proteins. Okay, these are obtained by the metabolic degradation of higher proteins. Again, what are simple? On hydrolysis gives only polar part of amino acids, I mean polar groups, or only amino acids, not other prosthetic groups. On hydrolysis gives both polar and non-polar, I mean both amino acids and other compounds as a product. Derived proteins means they are obtained by the metabolic degradation of higher proteins. They are obtained by the metabolic degradation of higher proteins. Okay, conjugated proteins may be of nucleoproteins. They may be a nucleoprotein. They may be a chrome protein. They may be a glycoprotein. Glycoprotein, let me write this spelling, Glycoprotein. Nucleoproteins, these consist of nucleic acids which are present in glandular tissues. So here the prosthetic group is nucleic acid. Next, chrome proteins. Here they are obtained by the combination of chlorophyll and hemoglobin. Okay, chlorophyll and hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a globular protein and combined with chlorophyll gives your chrome proteins. Glycoproteins, these are the constituents of our saliva. These are the glycoproteins are the constituents of our saliva. Saliva from any living organisms. Okay, so in this way the second classification of proteins has been done. Please remember, simple, conjugated, derived. Simple means only polar compounds gives. Conjugated means polar plus prosthetic groups. What is the meaning of prosthetic group, students? What I said, non-polar group also. And here derived proteins means which are obtained by metabolic degradation. Which are obtained by metabolic degradation of proteins. These are about the classification of proteins. By what we have learned till now, let us know about the characteristics of protein. Proteins do not have sharp melting points. Of course, they are optically active and they have high molecular masses. Okay, students, they may act as a Zwitter ion also. They may be a dipolar ions. I have already said high molecular masses. Example, egg albumin 34,000 to 44,000. Example, casein 75,000 to 1 lakh molecular mass. So finally, there are some proteins are soluble in water, some are not soluble in water, and they are optically active. Okay, they have high molecular masses, and proteins have a dipolar ions. Proteins have a dipolar ions. That means they have a Zwitter ions. They can be formed as a Zwitter ions also. These are the characteristics of proteins. Okay, students. Now let us discuss about the structure of proteins. Okay, students. Structure of proteins. The elemental analysis says that elemental analysis means the number of carbons, nitrogens, oxygen. We calculate the number of carbons, nitrogen, oxygens present in a protein. So what does elemental analysis says? It contains carbons 55 to 56%, nitrogens around 15 to 18%, oxygen 22 to 24%, and if phosphorus is present 0.5%, if sulfur is present 1%. This is all the elemental analysis of proteins. From elemental analysis of proteins, we know the percentages of carbons, nitrogens, oxygen, sulfur and fluorines are present. Phosphorus are present in these percentages. Okay. Now, let us move into the next thing. Actually, the structure of proteins has three models: primary structure of proteins, secondary structure of proteins, tertiary structure of proteins. How many models, students? Primary structure of proteins, secondary structure of proteins. I'll sure discuss about all the models at a time so that you can easily understand. Primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure. Okay, students, coming to the primary structure of proteins. Coming to the primary structure of proteins, the covalent structure of proteins are called primary structure of proteins. The covalent structure of proteins, the covalent structure of proteins are called primary structure of proteins. So they are connected by covalent bonds, students. Very simple. Okay. Next, an important thing about primary structure of proteins is the primary structure of proteins is responsible for the biological and physical activity of a protein. For example, if you consider normal hemoglobin, it contains the following combinations of amino acids: valine, leucine, pro. Okay, students, valine, leucine, threonine, pro, GLU, LYS. I am not completing these names. You have to learn from the table. LYS means lysine, GLU means glutamic acid. Okay, students, valine, leucine, threonine. Okay, I have written the abbreviation forms. Okay, this will be the connection of series of amino acids which is present in normal hemoglobin. So this is the primary structure of normal hemoglobin. If one of the amino acid is exchanged, then it results in a defected hemoglobin. That is, this series is same here. Here also this series is same. Instead of glutamic acid, GLU, if I place valine, what happens here? Normal hemoglobin becomes defected hemoglobin. So what happens? The red cells gets precipitated. So if the red cells gets precipitated, they may burst, even cause death. So it's very important, students. So the primary structure of proteins is responsible for the biological activity. If the primary structure of proteins is changed, at least one amino acids in the primary structure may result in the defected hemoglobin. If you have taken the example of hemoglobin, I mean they may lose the biological activity. So primary structures of proteins are very important. They may lose the biological activity if one of the amino acid is exchanged. Here we'll get a disease called sickle anemia. Sickle anemia. Here the red cells in the blood will get precipitated, even they may burst. Okay students, this is about the importance of primary structure. The main point is to remember is, if the primary structure has any change, it results in the loss of the biological activity of that particular protein. For example, we have done with an hemoglobin. If normal hemoglobin, if one of the amino acid, what is that, glutamic acid, GLE, is replaced by valine, you will get a defected hemoglobin, which results in a disease called sickle anemia. Sickle cell anemia. Okay students, this is about the primary structure of proteins. Understood students? Next, secondary structure of proteins. Next, about secondary structure of proteins. Okay students, secondary structure of proteins contains two forms. One is alpha helix, the other one is beta pleated sheets. One is alpha helix structure, other one is beta pleated sheet. Alpha helix structure is a structure similar like spiral. It has a spiral structure students. Here the proteins are coiled. The proteins are coiled through hydrogen bonding. For example, C double bond O, NH here. Here you will have NH, C double bond O. Here hydrogen bonding between this oxygen and this hydrogen bonding between this oxygen and this hydrogen. Understood students? They have coiled structure. This coiled structure is called alpha helical structure, simply called as alpha helix. Here they are connected through which bonding students? Hydrogen bonding. They are connected through which bonding students? Hydrogen bonding. Here the C double bond O, oxygen, is connected with NH through a hydrogen bonding. Here also hydrogen bonding. This is the alpha helix structure of secondary structure, one of the secondary structure of protein. What happens in beta pleated sheets? Here the proteins are added side by side, so they may be connected through intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Here the protein sheets are added side by side. So let us see C double bond O, NH, C double bond O, NH, C double bond O, NH. Okay students, now C double bond O, NH, C double bond O, NH, C double bond O. Next, here NH, C double bond O, NH, C double bond O, NH, C double bond O, NH, like that. So side by side, they are arranged side by side. What happened here? Let me show with these two chains so that you may not get confused. Here they are connected through intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Here they are connected through intermolecular hydrogen bonding. What is intermolecular hydrogen bonding? The hydrogen bonding between two molecules is intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Here the first proteins, nitrogen's hydrogen, is connected to the second sheet of proteins, oxygen. So they are arranged side by side. The protein chains are arranged side by side to form a beta pleated sheets. This is the one of the structure of secondary structure of proteins. Primary structure is a covalent like structure. In secondary structure we have two structures, alpha helix structures and beta pleated sheets. Alpha helix structure has a coiled structure. Here we have coiling, spiro compounds. Beta pleated sheets, here the protein chains are arranged side by side to form a beta pleated sheets. This is about the secondary structure. Okay students, coming to the tertiary structure of proteins, tertiary structure of proteins have three-dimensional structure students. Tertiary structures have three-dimensional structure students. They are formed in more complex form. So that what we do is the polar groups are in the exterior of the protein and the non-polar groups are present in the interior lobe of the protein. They are folded in such a way that they will have three-dimensional structure, and one of the important point is the polar group should be in the exterior lobe of the proteins so that they can interact with the other aqueous medium, and the non-polar groups are present in the interior lobe of the protein. This is about the tertiary structure of protein students. In this tertiary structures you have hydrophobic contractions like this. You may have all these things in tertiary structures. We'll fold to give the best structure of protein. You may have CH, CH3, CH3, CH, CH3, CH3. Here it may have hydrophobic interactions. Hydrophobic interactions. Okay students? Yes, yes. Disulfide linkage. Disulfide linkage. Okay. Hydrogen bonding interactions. Okay. Hydrogen bonding interactions. And you may have salt-like bridge. All this may be present in the tertiary structure of proteins. You may have hydrophobic interactions, you may have disulfide linkage, you may have intermolecular hydrogen bonding, you may have salt bridge. All these things may be present in tertiary structure of proteins. Okay students, and we must be aware that the polar group must be in the exterior lobe of the protein and the non-polar group must be in the interior lobe of the protein. This is about primary, secondary and tertiary structures of proteins. And if you want the difference between proteins and carbohydrates, carbohydrates on heating they will get charged, whereas charged, not charged students, charged, they will get burned, whereas proteins on heating they will get coagulated. Okay students, on hydrolysis carbohydrates give glucose, proteins on hydrolysis gives amino acids. Okay, this is the difference between carbohydrate and a protein. For example students, there is another important last point about protein: denaturation and renaturation of proteins. Denaturation of protein means, for example, if you consider our egg white is our protein. Okay, this on heating will get coagulated. So this is called denaturation of that egg, denaturation of that egg white. Okay, on heating it is getting coagulated, so denaturation. If you want to reverse again, we can't get egg white, egg as egg after boiling, right? So here the renaturation cannot be takes place. But in some proteins, if they undergo denaturation, they may renature. Understood? Denaturation means, denaturation of protein means by heating or by interacting with enzymes or by shaking with alcohols, the proteins get coagulated and they lost their form. So they get denatured. For example, egg white. So after boiling egg, we are getting a coagulation form of egg white. So the egg is denatured, the protein is denatured. But if you have to bring back again, some of the proteins after denaturation may come back, but some of the proteins after denaturation they may not come back. For example, egg can't come back. But some proteins can come back after denaturation, which is called as renaturation. I hope you not get confused. Renaturation and denaturation. Denaturation means if you take a protein, let me write and show so that you will be clear. if you take a protein, if you do boiling, I mean if you supply heat, first thing, or attacked by enzymes, second thing, or okay, if you heat or if you attack by enzymes, or if you shake by alcohol, you will get a coagulated product of protein. This is called denatured protein. This denatured protein may be as it is in some cases. In some cases, it can be reversed and becomes renatured protein. That means the protein will be back. Understood, students? Proteins on following one of the reactions, they may undergo heating or enzymes or shaking with alcohol, we will get a coagulated. That is called denatured proteins. Some denatured proteins cannot be reversed. Some denatured proteins can be reversed and we will get a protein back. So that is called renatured proteins. This is about all protein, students. Okay, students, proteins are complex nitrogenous polymeric substances. And what is the classification of protein, students? It can be classified in two ways. Okay, and they have high molecular masses. And we have also studied about the structures of proteins. What are the structures of proteins, students? Primary, secondary and tertiary. Okay, students, this is all about the chapter amino acids and proteins. So what will be the questions? The questions are define amino acids and classification of amino acids is very important. And the other question will be write about the synthesis of amino acids. They may ask two synthesis, or they may ask to write the synthesis of amino acids, or they may ask by synthesis by names like Strucker synthesis, Gabriel's Thalamide methods. So you have to learn perfectly about the synthesis of amino acids. Next, coming to physical properties, you have to learn about Zwitter ion, dipolar ion, and separately about isoelectric point also. Zwitter ion is a separate question and isoelectric point is also a separate question, but in essays they may be combined and asked. Write about Zwitter ion and isoelectric point and learn about chemical properties of amino acids also, and learn a brief note on peptides and learn a brief note on proteins. Okay, this is all about amino acids and proteins chapter, students. Please study well. Thank you very much, students.